What if the most powerful thing a woman can do after heartbreak is begin again, without apology? I'm Tina Leigh, mom, dreamer, and proof that life after 50 is anything but boring. Dating Grace isn't your soft-focused fairy tale version of dating. If you're ready for messy, honest, and maybe a little wild, you're in the right place. This is Dating Grace by Tina Leigh.
Can you tell me what you're doing here today?
So today I am introducing Dating Grace by Tina Leigh. In the past year, I've gone through just a wicked divorce, and it has brought me to this point where when you are completely stripped of everything that you believed was going to be your life, obviously continuing and until the end, to have all of it change in a moment, you really have to find yourself again and understand who you are. You have to come through the hurt, the pain. You have to heal. You have to rebuild. And in that rebuilding and healing comes confidence. And it does take time. It's nothing that can happen overnight. And moving through that, hopefully, and in my case, I think that I would like to meet someone again. And it's something that just kind of came to me within the last month and a half, dating Grace. Again, this whole process, it also requires grace. You are at such a low, and then as you move through that, there's so many points where you're having to learn yourself again. Others are learning you, and grace is needed. And grace is needed for what your new life is, what your path is, as well as if you're going to be in a new relationship. And with that, I think that I do want to be in a relationship again, and I hope to meet that person. I have been dating. I did recently break up with somebody, but that's just kind of par for the course right now. And again, Dating Grace has been it's been a big part of just my everyday life since April 11th, 2024. And I feel that there's a lot of women who are also in the same boat that I'm in, that are recently divorced. They're in this age group. And I'm just going to say from your 30s to your 60s. For me personally, I'm 51, and to be left at 50 is also kind of one of those things where you're just like, you feel like a walking cliche that you're 50 years old and you just got dumped. I mean, literally just got dumped after my 50th birthday. So it was a hard reality, but that's kind of how Dating Grace came out of really the ashes, and here it is now.
When you say like getting dumped at 50, what story are you telling yourself when all of this happens?
Okay. Well, it was brutal. Again, it was April 11th. It was a Thursday morning. It was 8 a.m. I will never, ever forget that day, that time. I had just gotten out of the shower. I had no makeup on. I was standing in a tank top and underwear. And my now ex-husband said to me, I wasn't going to tell you this today. And he dropped the bomb and said, I want a divorce and you're being served today. I mean, it was brutal. I couldn't even wrap my head around what was going on. And being that I had just turned 50, you think that you again, have life figured out. Obviously, you never know where it's going to take you. And so that morning, after this discussion that was obviously very heated at times, and just outrageous. Some of the things that were being said to me. I balled up in the bed, and this probably was at least a good 2 hours, but something came over me, and there was this inner voice that said, "Get up. You are in the fight of your life. Get up. Put one foot in front of the other, and still until it starts getting easier." And as soon as I did, I heard a male voice, just crystal clear, in my ear. And for me, I believe that it was God's voice. And he said, "You are going to be okay." And it was so clear, and it was so strong, and it was so firm that I leaned into that from that moment, moving forward. And in that same moment, I'm kind of one of these people, like I tend to be an overachiever. I can be a perfectionist, etc. So all I was hearing in my head was, I have failed. This is a failure. I'm about to go through a divorce. I've failed my kids. I just heard fail. Like it was just blaring in my head. And after I heard, "You are going to be okay," I knew that I had to shift what I was thinking about this being a failure, because if I did that, it was going to eat me alive moving forward, and maybe for the rest of my life. And of course, that could, have a huge impact on my kids. And also in those first couple of hours of him telling me the worst news I've probably ever received, I had a shift in my thinking. And it was like 14 years of marriage is not a failure. There were plenty of good times, and we have ran our course. We ran our race, and it's coming to an end. And I wouldn't have these two beautiful children without going through this. And so on day one, I started thinking of what initially was just glaring to me as a failure as a positive. And it was a very important part of the process for me.
What is the opposite of grace to you?
Ooh, gosh, what a great question. I think that somebody that is unkind, that is just disrespectful, ugly, meaning in the way that they treat people. I think that for me, that is the opposite of grace.
Have you been that to yourself? Those things?
Absolutely. I think especially as a woman, it's very easy to fall into the traps of, especially if somebody is repeatedly saying, "What happened to you? You used to be this, you used to be that. You've gained so much weight. You're not the same person you used to be. You used to be such a go-getter. What do you do now? You do nothing." And I'm like, okay, I do nothing. And so sometimes when you're only receiving messages from one person, especially that's very important in your life, it's easy to start believing those things, and you lose yourself. And I also had to start moving through all of that, and I needed to give myself grace. And I also, once the dust started to settle, I absolutely knew that I was being told things over and over that just were not true at all about me. I know who I am, and I have been working to get back to myself. And I do believe that I am back to myself. I'm strong. I am confident. I am caring. I am giving, and nobody can take any of that away from me.
It's interesting because when we talked the first time, you had said, not that you would ever predict that someone would do what your ex-husband did and the way he did it. But it's interesting because you said you were blindsided, but it sounds like there's a lot of verbal abuse and emotional abuse leading up to that. Does that not count?
I think that when you've been married for a number of years, that it's hard to see your way out of it when things like that are happening more on a regular basis, especially if it's fueled by alcohol. And then it would be, oh, I never said that, or I'm really sorry. Of course I don't mean that. That was just like the way out of it. And I would say, I can't have you talking to me, speaking to me like that. I said, because every time you do, it takes a little piece of my heart, and I don't bounce back from that. But it does. It hurts me. It hurts my soul. And so it would just be this repeated thing of, it's not going to happen again. I promise, and of course, you have children involved, you have years of history together, you have a future planned, and you just don't turn your back. Even though there's many times I should have packed my bags and said, that's enough. I've had enough.
Would you say like your most overwhelming, what emotion is coming up right now? The obvious one feels like sadness, but is there something else?
I think that it's that I did wait so long. I think even though I truly felt blindsided on that Thursday morning, I think that what I've been able to see more clearly now is that I was actually given a gift that day. I was set free. And I think what is coming up for me right now is I should have set myself free years ago instead of hanging in there, because hanging in there is not truly living.
Well, that doesn't sound like grace.
No. And I think that that's why Dating Grace by Tina Leigh, that's why it means so much to me right now, because every day moving forward has involved grace. And I'm going to give myself grace, and I'm going to give grace to those around me.
I think that's one of the hardest things is you can only have as much empathy and grace for other people as you do for yourself. And they really can't go out of order,
True. Sometimes life asks you to start over, not with a grand plan or a perfect mindset, but with a quiet decision to begin again. That's how Dating Grace started, from a place of loss, curiosity, and a deep desire to grow. I'm Tina Leigh, and I built Dating Grace to help others rediscover who they are beneath the noise. Through one-on-one coaching, workshops, and the simple act of honest conversation, I help people reconnect themselves, others, and the parts of life that still feel good. If that's what you're craving, a little peace, a little direction, and a lot of grace, book your free 15-minute consultation at datinggracebytinalee.com. That's datinggracebytinalee.com. TINALEIGH.com. Let's find your way forward together. I think that when you're told by your spouse that they want a divorce, it's really hard to know what's going to come next. And for me, mine has taken a lot of twists and turns along the way, including having a gauntlet thrown down over custody and being falsely accused of being an alcoholic, which then led me to a 30-day rehab program because I was not willing at the time to go through a 3 to 4 year custody battle that was going to go nuclear and literally burn our family to the ground. I just was not willing to do it at that time. And I just felt whatever you want to do to me, you can do to me, but you're not doing it to our children. It was very much I don't know how else to better describe this, but like a snow job that was going on in terms of he stopped drinking 2 weeks before he served me to look like he doesn't have some sort of possible drinking issue at times, et cetera, that he had enrolled himself into a local university to become a counselor, which was not in his wheelhouse whatsoever, like previously. All these things that were literally going to make him look more like a saint. And me, the more he talked it up, and as he, would secretly record me, et cetera, things like that to try to ramp up this narrative about me. He even had the audacity to tell people he was going to divorce me before he told me he was going to divorce me, and set the story behind it that I was this alcoholic, et cetera. And so this went on for a long time. And it really also brings you to the point that it comes down to your true friends. And your true friends and your family, they know you. They are the ones who are going to stick with you when things get hard, and I mean hard. And those are the people that have been around me. I cannot begin to say the level of support that has been so important in my life. And when I decided that I would take that 30-day program, what I knew was I had so much anger and rage inside of me that I had to unload that I would not be the person that I want to be on the other side of divorce, the mother that I want to be for my children. I want them to have their father in their life. I do not want to be bitter towards him. I want to move forward. I want him to move forward. And I ended up staying another 30 days. So I was there for 60 days. I did therapy from 8 to 4 every single day. And I feel like it gave me probably at a minimum a 2-year head start through this whole process. And what it did for me was I walked out of there so empowered. It helped bring me back to exactly who I am as a person. And after that, I was like, I'm done with being threatened, with being bullied, etc. And it turned out to be another gift that was given to me. And again, it has to be a shift in your thinking. At first I was kicking and screaming because I was like, this is not something that is necessary. This is not something that I need to do. And then when I was able to work through all the points, especially with number one, protecting my children, but then seeing the benefit that it was actually going to give me, and then therefore my kids. It was something that allowed me to be at peace with what was coming and the time that I was going to be away.
It was an ultimatum from him. I already know this, but just so that everyone watching
Yes. It was, even though we were legally divorced at this point, he threw down a gauntlet and literally said, if you don't go to a 30-day program, I'm going to court tomorrow and I'm filing for full custody. Mind you, we had just been at war day in and day out. I was mentally exhausted. I most certainly wasn't expecting this attack to come. And he's also somebody that has a lot of resources, and I knew that the whole process could just drag on and on and on. And again, it just, all I had to do was put my kids in the first position, which they've always been in. They're my priority. It's my job to protect them. And I felt like that was the best way that I could protect them at the time.
So when you're in this rehab program, and like, I know that you're talking about like this deep like anger and rage that you had towards him going into it. Did you find anything else during that program that you didn't know? Like, did pain start earlier in your life than the divorce?
Oh gosh. It kicked up all sorts of very painful childhood memories. My family went through a divorce. My parents had been married for 17 years, and my father was having an affair. My sisters are 13 and 14 years older than I am. My parents tried to reconcile. They got pregnant with me, and he continued to have his affair. He left my mom. He left us three girls. I was an infant. The divorce was final by the time I was a year old. He left my mom with $50 in the bank, and she was not working because she was a stay-at-home mom. The abandonment was huge. And then I never met him until I was 16. And he died when I was 17. And I met him because he was sick. He had leukemia and he was dying. And it was really his own guilt of wanting to see his three girls. And I think he wanted to reconcile something before his day came. And I just had pure curiosity. I was so young that I did go and meet him. But the way handled that situation with wanting a divorce, it was very much, I felt abandoned in that moment. And he's someone that told me, because of course he knew my situation, with my dad and the family situation. And he told me, I will never leave you. You are the love of my life. I will never leave you. I will not do to you what your father did to you. And he did. So I also, in that time, I was fortunate enough to be able to work through that pain. And it's brought me a long way. It's not over. I mean, there's still obviously healing going on as I sit here and have the tears rolling. But it's real emotion, and it's things that I don't think they'll ever leave you. It's just a matter of how you process it and how you choose to live your life and actually, being very clear on what you want from life. And that also means now for me, who I'm going to allow in my life, it's my choice. I don't have to be with some bozo, I mean, that's the truth. So yeah, it's dating Grace, and this second chapter is all mine. And if I make a mess of it, that's on me. And I most certainly am not planning on making a mess of it. So
do you now know that you're not disposable?
That's disposable. Wow. The other thing that came through all of this was I didn't really realize until I had all of that time at Malibu was what I've really been battling most of my life is feeling not worthy. So that can bring you to the point that I feel like just tossed me to the side on that morning, that I didn't matter, that our time together didn't matter. So
not worthy of what?
Just not worthy, not worthy of love, sometimes of just being in fortunate situations. It's like, it's always been this feeling of waiting for the other shoe to drop, that it's like I can't fully trust that things are going to be okay, because I've never, I think, allowed myself to trust that things are fully going to be okay. And all of that lies with me. That doesn't lie with somebody else. Those are things that I have done a lot of work on. And I feel now that I most certainly deserve a seat at the table, and I am worthy, and I do have a purpose, and I do have plenty of reasons to be here.
Agreed. Do you remember the first time you felt unworthy? Can you do you have a distinct memory around that? Or not really?
I know, just being very little, because with my sisters being so much older, they were already at college, and it was just me and my mom. And my mom was very hurt by what my dad had done, and she showed it in different ways. She was also very bitter for most of her life because she never worked through her own pain. And I think that, and plus she had to work full time just to try to keep things going. And I had a lot of time by myself. And in some of those moments, I think that the unworthiness kind of set in. I just felt like I was on an island by myself, and it was me that I had to figure things out on my own. There wasn't people to talk to about your hurt or your pain, or why don't I have a dad?
Yeah.
You couldn't talk about that. It just wasn't handled that way at the time.
Is your mom still alive?
No, I have had, you want to talk about the last year and then some. So
you still look beautiful, by the way. I know you've got tears.
Thank you. Thank you. This past March, my mom died. And she was buried on my birthday. So 50 was divorce, and 51, I buried my mom. So it's time. It is time. And I will say, though, that there's something poetic in the fact that she was buried on my birthday, because my twins were born on her birthday. And then with me being so much younger than my sisters, my mom said to me, I was her saving grace, that because I was a baby, she had to get up and get out of bed. She had to eat. She had to go get a job, etc. She said, you were the reason I got up. And again, it kind of came full circle in a very like kind of poetic way that day. As hard as it was, I still, that was late March, and here we are at the end of August, and there are days that I still find myself just in disbelief that she's not here. It felt like it just happened so fast. And I was fortunate enough. I grew up in southeastern Virginia, and my sister called me on a Monday morning, and she said, you need to get home now. And I was able to get an early afternoon flight to Richmond, and then I still had an hour's drive by the time I landed and got there. And my sister and I, my sister was still there, and I made it in time to have the last 3 hours with her. So I was very grateful that she waited. She waited for me.
I know you said the voice that told you you're going to be okay was distinctly a male voice, but is there any chance that the one from the inside that told you to get up was her?
That was me.
That was you.
That was my inner voice. Mm-hmm. I just knew. And, in the past, like I was a competitive tennis player, and there was something that came out of me from that where it was like, I am not going down like this. So it was like, get up, it came, I don't know, it came quickly too. I mean, it was only, a couple hours later, and it just felt like if I lay here, nothing is getting done that needs to get done to help me through this process.
It's very evident that you adore your mom, but it sounds like there's some hurt that came through that.
We had as well a very complicated relationship.
Okay.
We could laugh and have the best time, and then other times just the passive aggressiveness, etc., are things that just didn't make any sense at all. It's like, it was very hard for her to ever try to even ask, let alone tap into your feelings or really like the core of what's going on with you, especially when you're going through like a hard time. My divorce became a hard thing for us actually to talk about. She would say to me, well, you're lucky. You're lucky. Financially, you're going to be just fine, etc. Things like that. And I would tell her every single time, just because I'm not being left with only $50 in the bank doesn't mean that this doesn't hurt and that I'm not devastated. And that I still have to figure out my life moving forward. But it's almost like it became a comparison, that hers was worse than mine. And that was hard to hear when I was living it and under attack. Like, that's how it felt to me, like under attack on a daily basis. And I wasn't getting that kind of support that I truly wanted from her. She should know better than anybody the level of devastation and how hard it is.
It's like she was like repeating it, but you won't.
I made a very clear decision, like with myself. When it happened, I'm like, I am not going to be my mom. I am not going to actually, no matter how things play out, I'm not going to let him take my next however many days I'm here on this earth and have him be the one that's in my head. No, absolutely not.
What else do you want us to know about how this all played out?
I think that there are blessings that come in the strangest ways. And I feel like I've been given a gift and a new lease on life. I am so excited and optimistic about Dating Grace by Tina Leigh. My divorce has also, in the wildest way, I'm reconnected with people I haven't like talked to maybe in years. It's even connected them with some of their family members because we've all known each other so long. It's just been this full circle type of thing because I circled the wagons when this was going down because I truly just needed the people that care about me, that love me, and were there to support me. I couldn't have any of the noise or the possibility of, you know, it being played back and forth between me and him. I just wanted my close knit group, and that's kind of still where I'm at today. And I do feel that friendships have deepened. My relationship with my sister is stronger. We also survived just recently the death of our mom. I do have another sister, but that's a whole nother ball of wax. I'm closest with my middle sister. And the relationship between me and my kids, we really have come back to just the cuddling on the couch and watching a movie and simplifying life, and it's not just about all the things. It's about the things that matter, not the material things. This is for the hurt. This is for the healing. This is Dating Grace by Tina Leigh.